I think when Erwin Laszlo just said, as a planetary species, we're at a tipping point. And I think also with that COVID-19 crisis right now, this will be seen as one of the big incidents in human history. I mean, this is probably something we have never seen before. And I think the summer of purpose couldn't actually come at a better time, because these are now tipping points where we need to change things. One thing I was able to feel over the course of the last 2 days is this energy of connecting, having these real encounters, to talk, to exchange about ideas. Then I was thinking about Eckhard von Hirschhausen when he explained about the power of language and little semantics, and I'm now giving a translators a hard time, but I found it really striking when he said, why do we call it Umwelt and not Mitwelt? So for me, this was like, language can really be a powerful force, but language can also be a very destructive force. We talked with Kerry Kennedy about hate speech, about fake news, conspiracy theories. And I think this is also something for us to reflect. We experience right now the power of language that can go into the good or into the bad. But then we had some voices who said, no, talk, it's about action. Yes, I totally agree, but I also totally disagree. I think we need both. When we talked about actions, Dr. Wolfgang Schäuble, the president of the German Bundestag, he said, and he agreed with Professor Yunus, we need all these small steps. Then I heard some other voices who said, no, this is not enough. We need big steps. Not big steps, but bigger steps. So Hans, you had to do the big steps. I was thinking about, is it a contradiction, or do these things go hand in hand? I think one thing that we all agreed on, there is no back to normal. And Professor Yunus, you keep emphasizing on this, no back to normal. We should see this as an opportunity to reshape society, reshape economy. We heard about from Mohamed Amersi now about the need to reform the UN. Most of our speakers agreed how important, how fundamentally important the United Nations is, but it needs a fundamental change. So really big step action. Then I was wondering, how do you achieve that big change of a UN without talking? We probably need to talk for 5, 10, 20 years before that change happens. So in the end, for me, that all made sense. We heard about some of the big steps that we had to take, and one of them is COVID-19 vaccine for all. And I'm very happy now to hand over to Professor Mohamed Yunus to talk about this, but I mean, I have to say this is also a very special occasion. Professor Yunus, first of all, warm welcome, and I know you're very humble. I had the pleasure to work with you for 10 years. You're very, very humble. You said, I don't want to celebrate the birthday, but of course, we have to say, happy birthday, Professor Yunus. I mean, this is a tremendous opportunity to do this with you. 80 years birthday, all the best, good health, lots of moments of happiness from all of us here, from Munich and all around the world.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm delighted to be back today again, talk about the work that we have been involved with, and particularly in the context of the corona pandemic, things that went wrong totally. One is something that I was very distressed, that while we had a common enemy, common global enemy, like corona invasion, the world didn't behave in a concerted way. You would have expected that the whole world will get together to face a common enemy for the whole world. This is a very unusual situation that presented to us, but we didn't behave in the way it should have been. In the process of dealing with the common enemy, instead of having common strategy, we fall back on our local strategy, national strategies, and so on, trying to defend our own community rather than the global community itself. It could be a better served if you have paid attention to our common strategy, and within that we could design our own strategy rather than forget about the common strategy, go back to your community, your nation, and so on. So that was very painful to see that. Not only that, it also kind of exaggerated form. The only institution that we had, you mentioned about just heard about Mohamed Amersi, my good friend, mentioning about the redesigning of United Nations. That's true, but the question is, Whatever we have now, this was one occasion that the United Nations has an organization for fighting this whole battle, whole war in the global context. It's the WHO, Global World Health Organization. Instead of strengthening that, although they were trying their best to make sure that everybody understood what this common enemy is all about, what will be the strategy for saving ourselves, instead of standing behind it totally and organize it in a total global way, some of us attacked it in a very brutal way, withdrawing money from the WHO and ordering investigation right at the time when we needed to strengthen it, we needed to go behind it, so that we have a common command over the whole thing. So that was a very painful thing that we didn't act that way. We acted more in a tribal way rather than in a global way. So this reason that we have the 75th year now celebrating the creation of United Nations, after 75 years of building this unified discussions and decision making so that we can avoid conflict within ourselves. But it was so much easier to defend ourselves against external to ourselves as a common enemy. So this could be a good lesson, how we come back to our unification of the global mind so that we can fight these common enemies from now on and make it happen in a systematic way. The pandemic is going on. Still, we have not resolved the issue. And again, another painful thing comes around the corona vaccine. You hear about corona vaccine, you see news in the corona vaccine. Again, Mohammed Amarsi was giving all the statistics, companies involved, what is happening in very detailed way. The news that we get, some company making announcement, they are in the process, they are progressing very fast, and they would like to bring it by the end of the year, giving a date, and excitement is generated out of that. And that's good, people are getting excited. So we have heard about at least 2 companies making very concrete announcement about it. An announcement is very strange. Each one of them came with the announcement when they had the press conference. The first production will go to such a country because they already bought off and they have paid good money to them. Again, the question, as Amarsi was raising the issue, and I strongly support his issue, that what about the rest? I mean, you're dealing with one country because they paid you, and other countries don't. When do they get it? Will they ever get it? And how much they have to pay for it? In both cases, one is one country, another is a group of countries. They said they'll provide the vaccine for them, and didn't promise anything for the rest of the world. So that's a kind of worrying thing that if we cannot do it in a concerted way, again, failure. And this is what is happening for us. So we have a situation when it will go in a certain part of the country, even within the country, probably a certain segment of the society, because if you are paying high prices for that, not everybody can afford to buy that kind of thing, no matter which country you are talking about. So this is something to be remembered, continue to do so. And that is not the kind of thing we would like to do. And that's why we are thinking about how to make it available to everybody. Because this is the only way we can end the pandemic, we can come to the end of the whole panic that is created and the disaster that is created. If we can make sure everybody get a vaccine, at least protected, immune system has been developed for everybody to fight it within the body. How do we do that? So we are issuing an appeal to the world. Today we have already, just a couple of hours back, we have issued that appeal to the world, signed by some important people in the world, initiated from us to do that, to declare this corona vaccine as a global common good. This is very fundamental. This is very starting point of the whole thing. We declare it as a common good, like air, like oxygen, or whatever so that everybody is entitled to do that. Everybody can produce it wherever they want. So there's no licensing of it. There is no patent right to it. It's an open source product. A corona vaccine should be open source, common good, meaning that if you have a facility, you can produce it and sell it wherever you want. So we are not waiting for some company to decide who to give it to, at what price they have to give it to. We can take it wherever we want. We can produce it in Bangladesh, you can produce it in Indonesia, or you can produce it in Colombia, wherever you want. If you have the facility, you go and produce it, distribute it, and make it happen. So that's the way to go without restricting it to tied it up into company portfolio and make sure that you have to pay and so on. It should be a common good that should be announced now before it's too late. Unless we do that, privileged people will have access to it, and bulk of the population will not have that. And that will lead to some other problem if we follow that path, that some people will get it and some people will not get it because the company is waiting to see where they can get the bigger money next time. The problem will arise because everybody, all the 8 billion people on this planet would like to have the vaccine on the first day. And they'll be desperate because they want to protect themselves, they want to protect their family, they want to protect their children. So no matter what it takes, they are willing to pay, they would like to get it, but many countries will not get it. Even if you have the money, they will not get it because companies are not selling it to them yet. God knows how many years it will take to get there. In the absence of that availability, my fear is there will be much bigger business will be growing globally, producing quote unquote a fake vaccine, look-alike fake vaccine. It's exactly the same vaccine that the companies are producing, but it's totally fake, totally manufactured by some unscrupulous people to make money out of them. And they will make billions of dollars by selling fake food. In the meantime, you give a false sense of protection and again, continue with the coronavirus spreading, despite the fact you took the vaccine, which is the wrong vaccine, the fake vaccine. So in order to save that and also save the money that would be going in the wrong hands, it's very important that we declare it's a common good and we allow everybody to, wherever they have the capacity to produce it. And this is an initiative has to be done right now, taken right now. So I invite you all to sign up that petition, sign up that appeal, all of you who are present here, and invite all of your friends to sign up. We have a page in the internet, in the virtual world, where you can keep on signing, invite people signing. We have signed now about 100 people, 100 plus people. There'll be more people can sign. Anybody can sign if you believe that this is the right path to do, and we strongly think this is the right step to do. There's no option to it. So this is one thing that also invite the press to publicize it and ask your media contacts to request them to write editorials about it so that they can start explaining why this is important, and ask all the columnists that you like, you have friends at the columnists, to write columns about it so that globally it becomes a campaign to lead that way. And ask your political leaders to take action on that, to make decisions on that. Only they can make it happen, to come to the decision making that yes, finally it could be made into a global common good, so that finally at least we know everybody who has the capacity can do that. Those who do not have the capacity can go to the nearest possible capacity center to bring the vaccine as much as they want. It's a production capacity. So this is one part that we would like to invite you to support that, and we will explain to you in the press, and hopefully that will be appearing in your press tomorrow. And at the same time, that gave us another idea that since it's so difficult to get the vaccines, why don't we create social business to make it happen? If it is a common good, then you don't have to get a license to do it anywhere. All you have to do is to create a company. And in this time, we are preparing to create a social business company, meaning that this company is not interested in making money by selling vaccine. It is only interested in making sure this vaccine reaches you everywhere. Those who can afford to pay, they will pay. Those who are not able to pay, they will be getting free. So both sides. We ensure 100% people get the vaccine. That's a assurance that you have to get. And that's the basis on which this social business pharmaceutical company will be built. Once it is built, and we are hoping that we can build it, provided vaccine becomes an open product, non-patented product, open source product, then we can do that. Then we're going to start producing it locally everywhere and make it available at the cost price so that everybody can afford it, as many people. And then we make sure that the people who cannot afford to pay, we organize how to pay, how to provide them and build up the local distribution channels and so on. As a social business, it will be our responsibility to make sure that we not only produce, also take responsibility as the country would be making a distribution system, become part of the distribution system, so that we ensure that everybody gets that vaccine as quickly as possible. It should not take months and years to get to your corner of the world. It should be done as quickly as it happens to a big city in a big country. It will be same speed. It will go to the poorest village in the poorest country at the same speed, same level. That's what we want to make the assurance for. So we want to create that social business pharmaceutical company, and we invite you to invest in that social business company, a business which will never give you any dividend, but will return the money that you gave after operation and creating surplus, so that you still own the company, but it will not give you a dividend. You got your money back, but it still continues to work. And if it can work in one location, it can work in any location. That's the whole spirit of it. So these are the two things we want to bring up to your attention, to bring up to your notice. And please discuss this issue with your friends, with your students or your colleagues in the schools or wherever institutions you are working with, so that we can make it happen. This is most important thing right now during the Corona period, that we protect all of us at the same time, almost at the same time, with the vaccine, which is produced and distributed locally. And that's why the common good, global common good declaration is so important. So with this appeal, I conclude my presentation, and I hope you'll support this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Yunus. Strong statement, a very strong call to action. We will see you later today for the golden hour. So you keep watching us, the Summer of Purpose from Bangladesh, from Dhaka. And yeah, I'll see you later. Thank you very much.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Out of the Colloquium 51, during the Summer of Purpose, a creative, dynamic, and interdisciplinary dialogue about learnings, perspectives, and purpose led to a conclusion of concrete action plans and the agreement that there is no going back after the corona pandemic.
The pandemic actually highlighted many of the things that are wrong with the way the world is happening and running right now.
I think everybody's been busy doing their own firefighting, but I think now's the time to think about that question.
This is a disease where nobody is safe until we are all safe.
We are making an appeal to the world to declare corona vaccine as a universal public good or a common good.
As the COVID-19 pandemic continues to wreak havoc across Mother Earth, everyone converges on the idea that ultimately the only way to definitively eradicate the pandemic is to have a vaccine.
We are thinking about how to make it available to everybody, because this is the only way we can end the pandemic. We can come to the end of the whole panic that is created and the disaster that is created.
The pandemic clearly exposes the strengths and weaknesses of healthcare systems in different countries, as well as the obstacles and inequities of access to healthcare. Governments, foundations, international financial organizations should work out details of how to make the vaccines available free of cost. We appeal to them and charity organizations, philanthropist individuals, and social businesses to come forward to produce and/or distribute the vaccines all over the world.
Everybody can produce it wherever they want. There's no licensing of it. There is no patent right to it. It's an open source right.
We invite all entities to reaffirm our collective responsibility for the protection of all vulnerable persons related to poverty, discrimination, gender, illness, loss of autonomy, or age. We must work out an unambiguous procedure to determine what would be a fair level of this return in exchange for putting the vaccine in the public domain. Information issued by the private sector, scientists, and authorities needs to be timely, accurate, clear, complete, and transparent.
It should be a common good that should be announced now before it's too late. Unless we do that, privileged people will have access to it, and bulk of the population will not have that.
We urge the World Health Organization to design a World Action Plan. We appeal to them to set up an international committee responsible for monitoring the vaccine research. We appeal to all world leaders, Secretary General of the United Nations, Director General of the World Health Organization, religious, social, moral leaders, leaders of research laboratories, pharmaceutical companies, and media leaders to join hands to ensure that in the case of COVID-19 vaccine, we have a global consensus for free universal access, far ahead of its actual production and distribution. We, the undersigned, ask you to sign this appeal at www.vaccinecommongood.org.